7:06 a.m. Red and blue washing my porch like a low-budget disco, while my coffee goes cold in my hand. 2 cruisers boxing my driveway as if I might make a run for it. And 40 feet back, the HOA president is standing behind her sunglasses with that little smile people wear when they think the game is already over. The lead officer asks if I'm trespassing on common property, and I set my mug on the hood, open the folder I've been carrying like a life jacket, and say, before you cuff me, take 30 seconds with this deed, then ask her who owns the clubhouse now. That was the crack in the wall. But if you want the whole picture, you have to rewind to when all I wanted was a quiet workshop and a little dignity. My name is Evan Cole. 52, 2 kids in college, who still raid my fridge 20 years as an army mechanic, keeping broken things moving in bad places. Then home to Hickory Bend, North Carolina, where I bought 9 acres, just outside a neighborhood called Maple Ridge Reserve, because the survey line said clear as day. I was out of their reach. I checked it twice because measure twice is how you live long. You know what I mean. The first week smelled like cut lumber and warm soil. The big sycamore by the drive creaked like an old boat. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the kind of quiet that lets your shoulders drop. Then the letters showed up certified and fat. $500 for an unapproved structure, which was my 90s garage. $200 for excessive equipment visibility, which apparently meant my toolbox existed. I called the office and a voice like a parking meter told me, per boundary, corrections. You are now within Maple Ridge, and 3 days later at 6:05 a.m. A knock like a battering ram put Marla Whitcomb on my doorstep. Pastel blazer clipboard digital camera, that managerial smile. Mr. Cole, you're accruing daily penalties, she said, tilting those sunglasses down like I was a child. I lifted the survey and said, I'm not in your HOA. She smiled, the smile of someone who likes rules more than people. Boundary corrections were filed. You'll find you are. I closed the door, emailed deed and survey and title to the HOA, and to myself started a folder called Marla Files. Next to photos of the dog, told myself to breathe, to be a grown-up, to let the paper talk. The second letter upped it to $2,500 and $150 a day until I removed the illegal garage. And I will tell you the truth, for a guy who rebuilt a Humvee differential in a sandstorm, a sheet of paper can still make your hands shake. That evening, my neighbor Frank Ortiz wandered over with 2 beers, and that head shake men do when they've seen this movie. They fined my granddaughter for chalk art, he said. Said it defaced community surfaces. And then he told me about Nate and Bree, who got hit for a swing set. The widow on Birch Court, who missed a month and woke up to a lien. And my patience turned into a low flame. I called an attorney I'd helped once on a drainage project. Alicia Park, sharp eyes. No fluff, sent her. Everything she asked. Did you get certified, notice of any boundary change before they filed it? I said no, she whistled, then their correction is likely void in North Carolina. But they'll swing anyway, and hope you can't afford to duck document everything. 3 days later, I learned how far they'd swing, because that was the morning of the cruiser's Sergeant Valerie Knox on my gravel asking for my side. I laid the deed and the survey and the county GIS printout on her hood. She made a call, scrolled the county site, then raised her voice just enough for Marla to hear from the street ma'am. This is civil, not criminal. We don't enforce private bylaws, take it to court. And the way Marla's mouth went to a hard line told me she wasn't after compliance. She was after control. When the cruisers rolled off, Sergeant Knox left me her card and one piece of advice that felt like armor document everything. People who need power they didn't earn tend to get creative. And yeah, that happened. The orange stickers started showing up like someone duct-taped my life, my mailbox, my garage, my truck. An inspector stood on my trash can to shoot photos over the fence and left a footprint like a signature. An unknown number texted me, a photo of my truck at the hardware store, with "We see you." And the thinner smell hung in the air. Half a morning after someone spray-painted "Cheater" across my garage, I scrubbed and told myself, rage is fuel if you burn it slow. We set 6 cameras, sent everything to the cloud, and Frank strung a line of cheap lights across his yard, so 9 families could lay out their letters like playing cards and stop blaming themselves. Bree's hands shook, describing a swing for her toddler. Nate stared at the totals like they were a bad dream. I said I can connect you to Alicia if you want, and Hope sounds like folding chairs, scooting closer. Alicia fired a cease and desist for me, demanded records, then subpoenaed minutes and bank statements, and that's when the dirt came falling out 6-figure admin services to Whitcomb Community Solutions, LLC. While the HOA also paid a management company, 3 foreclosures bought by an insider LLC and flipped for tidy profits a minute. That read like they were typed the night before, everybody voting yes to everything. Like a church where the sermon is always money. The HOA sued to enforce covenants. They swore applied because of their correction. Alicia countersued for fraud and abuse of process and asked for a forensic audit. And while that machine spun up, I followed the money in public records and found a 1.08 million amenities. Lone Maple Ridge took in 2019, when the developer bailed interest only. Balloon due now payments missed. The bank had filed a non-judicial foreclosure against the HOA's common property. Clubhouse pool entrance, signs, stormwater basins. The notice was public, the sale was 3 weeks out, and right there came the twist. If someone bought the common areas, they didn't own people but they owned leverage, and with insolvency you can ask a court to wind down a non-profit that's just a stick, used to whack neighbors. I had $210K liquid. I sold a lathe that hurt to let go. I called my brother Derek in Virginia and said, "I need a bridge." He asked for the play, and then he laughed. "You always liked dropping engines. Nobody else would touch. I'm in neighbors, chipped in small amounts. Not because I asked, but because clarity invites courage." Bree wrote a local piece. A TV truck idled at the cul-de-sac, and Marla's lawyer slid us a mutual settlement drop. Everything and sign an NDA, and they'll clear my slate. I said 2 words through. Alicia. No thanks. A week before the auction, 2 men tried the soft threat outside the courthouse, permits. Can take a long time, that smile without humor. I tapped the phone in my pocket and said, "Is this the part where you pretend it's a friendly chat?" And I call it intimidation. And we both remember there are cameras everywhere. They stepped back. Have a blessed day. They always say that part. Auction morning. The courthouse stone breathed last night's cold. The auctioneer read legalese long enough to put saints to sleep. Numbers climbed, went quiet. I lifted my paddle at 70. When the air got thin, going once, twice, and from the back, Marla barked. "This is ridiculous. He isn't even a member." The gavel fell sold to bidder. 14. And for a second my hands forgot how to be steady. The bank rep slid me a prelim deed and a ring of keys. That might as well have been a spotlight. I walked into a sun that felt different and called Alicia. I seem to own the pool and the clubhouse, she laughed. The laugh you hear when a locked door opens. Then let's end the masquerade. We filed to declare Maple Ridge insolvent, asked for a receiver to wind it down, and a homeowner vote to transfer the common areas into a community land trust, with open meetings and posted budgets, and no power trips disguised as standards. The smear machine tried one more bump in the night, a sock puppet account pushing photoshopped screenshots, and my name misspelled. Nate's cousin traced it to a provider serving one street in Hickory Bend, and Detective Eli Hart from the DA's office asked for our file. Alicia dropped a stack that hit his desk like a nail gun. Hearing day felt like a PTA meeting spiked with adrenaline, every seat full. Cameras pretending to be shy. My brother in a suit he bought for spite Frank and a clean ball cap. Nate squeezing Bree's hand, and Marla walking in without her armor. Black suit is severe. Bun, a young lawyer clutching a thin folder like a life preserver. The judge was Charlotte Ames' voice like a carpenter's square. Alicia laid out the blueprint. Defaulted loan, irregular payments to Whitcomb LLC insider flips, boundary correction without certified notice. And she never raised her voice because facts do not need volume. The young lawyer said, vendetta and overreach, and the judge asked if he had an audit. He said, forthcoming. She looked at the calendar and said, "You've had 7 days. Do you have it today?" He did not. Marla popped up to speak, and the judge allowed 3 sentences, and then the side door opened, and Detective Hart handed the bench a document. And if you've never felt a room go from loud to vacuum, you don't know that silence has weight. Ms. Whitcomb, the judge, said there is a warrant for your arrest for felony embezzlement fraud and perjury. Detective proceed, and the cuffs clicked, that tiny metallic sound that lands like a full stop in your chest. Marla's eyes found mine, and for the first time in months, there was no smile. "You did this. You ruined everything," she said, and I didn't gloat. I didn't grin. I just finally exhaled. Relief is a dangerous feeling when you've been braced for months. The judge granted our petition, appointed a receiver, ordered a homeowner vote to move the common areas to a transparent trust. And that's where some folks want credits to roll handcuffs and a gavel, and the hero walks into the sunset, but life is messier. Buying the common areas didn't make me king. Dissolving a corrupt HOA didn't make me a saint. It just put tools on the table and asked, "What do you build now?" Some neighbors wanted scorched earth. Some wanted tighter rules because order feels safe. What we chose was harder. Transparency conversation. A budget you can read without a law degree. And I know that line alone will light up a comment section. So let me ask you. Is protect neighborhoods or protect the feeling of control for people who crave it? Where is the line between